Hi, I'm Jim Subert with Pride Restoration. I want to share some things with you about basements particularly. When you have a basement and you have water damage that occurs, a lot of times it may come from heavy rains and sump pumps. A lot of people have sump pumps in their basements. What happens if that sump pump were to quit and cause water to flow up and fill up in your finished basement, let's say? Is it covered or not on your policy? Well, it's something you really need to understand and know what coverage you have on your policy. By looking at your deck page, it'll say things like backup of sewer and drain, and it would have sometimes would be a limit of that. Sometimes it's 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, or even more in some cases. And so when the water is in your basement, you want to make sure it's covered, for one, because it gets very expensive. If you have a finished basement, and I've been in homes where they have bars, they have bedrooms, they have a family room, and it's like a whole living area with kitchens, bathrooms are finished out. And with heavy rains in an area, you can have a substantial amount of rain back up through that sump pump if it quits working. It could be from a power outage, it could be from a rock to get stuck in there, from water flowing in, and it just quits working. And so what type of coverage? So you want to look for backup sewer and drain, make sure you have the policy. And then how much coverage should you have? Really depends on, you look at your basement. Every home is different, but I always consider, you think about worst case scenario. So imagine if you had a 1,400 square foot basement and you had it all completely remodeled, carpeting, drywall, furniture, and you make it like your extra room. You have the game room, pool tables and things. So just imagine that room with a foot of water throughout that room. Everything is damaged a foot down, including your dressers, your beds, your furniture, your appliances, your heat system, your water heater. Everything is damaged and everything has to be replaced. So you've got to rip everything out. You've got to get the water removed from the basement. And you still have to, once everything's dried and cleaned up properly, you'd be looking at putting everything back together again. What is that cost going to run? And it could be substantial. So think about worst case scenario on your policy. And here's some things too with water. If it's from a sump pump, that's dirty water. What if it comes up from a sewer drain on the floor? It could be just an inch or two, but it's coming in from the sewage. Now, was that from internal, your own system? And when we look at kind of the difference between a fill-up and a backup. So a backup would occur, a sewer backup, let's say it could happen after heavy rains in an area, that the sewer system, city gets overwhelmed, and it could then backflow into your house. Is that covered under your policy? How much cost will that be to get that cleaned up? And I'm talking about nasty black sewage that you don't know what's in that, but you don't want anything to do with it in your home or your kids. It's all over your furniture, all over your flooring. But what if it's inside your house? Let's imagine if one of your children would flush something down the toilet, for instance. Paper towels, could be feminine products get flushed down accidentally. I've even seen house guests, over at visiting, and they don't know any better, and they put their they think it's flushable, or wipes or feminine products down the toilet because it's what they do in their own house, and they do it in your house. And that causes a clog inside your plumbing system. And you notice the next day when you're doing laundry, taking a shower, and you realize that water is now filling up in your basement from what we call an internal fill-up. So a backup specifically from sump pumps, drains, that is from outside sources has to be covered under a separate policy called backup, sewer, and drain. A fill-up, on the other hand, is something that happens internally. It could be from something happens from something getting put in the toilet system, or what we call as a soft clog. That could be covered under your policy limits without having the additional rider. So always have the additional rider just in case, because you can't rely on it just being a fill-up. However, in the event, and that's why you want our expertise, we can look at the situation and find out what is exactly going on. We've got plumbers on speed dial that we call, they're experts at identifying exactly what the cause is, and they know how to document it for the insurance company to make sure what exactly it was. Because if you have the wrong plumber out there, the wrong person, and they go out there and identify something, and they could come back and backfire because they weren't sure what it was, and they put the wrong thing on the paperwork, which then given to the insurance company, they're going to rely on that as what it was. We've had to go back and have our plumber look at it and find out the guy that was there by the homeowner had picked out didn't identify it correctly, and it would have cost them all the expenses out of pocket. Well, we got it covered by understanding the whole situation. So please give us a call. Let's help you with those situations, because it could be tens of thousands of dollars out of pocket by not identifying the correct source of what happened with that flood in your basement, with that water damage. I want to share a few things that you want to think about and ask your agent when you're sitting down and addressing getting a new policy, reviewing your policy, or your price shopping. Everybody loves to save money, correct? So when you get a phone call from somebody, it could be your own agent, and says, hey, we have a new product out that we can save you $200 a year on your policy. Would you be interested? Everybody says, yes, sign me up. I'd love to save money. However, these are some things you need to find out and identify. Why is this policy cheaper? Whether it's being offered by your own agent, by another agent in town that says, hey, I can save you money on your homeowner's insurance. You want to know what exactly is covered on that policy. Some of those questions should be specifically, what is your policy limits? Each policy has a list of what is covered, but it also has what is called exclusions, which are things that are not covered. And you want to understand the difference between what is covered and what is not covered. And what is the policy limits? For instance, each policy has broken down into basically what I consider 3 buckets of money. You have what's called coverage A, which is your dwelling, your home, your building structure. Everything that would stay in your house or building if you moved out is covered. Coverage A for dwelling. There's also coverage for B, which is would be other structures like a separate garage or a building or something, or a bench or something attached to your house, or could be a shed, or so that would be other structures. Then there's also C coverage for personal property. You want to know what that personal property coverage amount is, because I've seen devastating losses for people that thought they had plenty of coverage for all their contents. When we added up all the damages, they were well short of covering everything they lost in their home. It's easy to get that number, and when you're buying a policy, it's basically set up as a cookie cutter approach, where your dwelling is so much and your coverage for your personal property is a percentage of your home. Is that fair for everybody? Not necessarily. So some people have more items, more contents, more valuable contents than other people. So you want to make sure what you have. One thing is like artwork, for instance. Do you have an expensive artwork in your home? Some policies cover $2,500 of total artwork. I spoke to a lady yesterday that told me she had 8 paintings in her home that were valued at $3,500 a piece. And I informed her, I said, if you had a devastating loss here, you would get $2,500 total for all your artwork. And she was shocked, had no idea. So, same thing applies for jewelry. What is your limits on jewelry? You also need to know about mold. Does your policy cover mold? Mold is something that is prevalent in all areas of the country, especially after you have a loss from a water or fire damage. And so you want to know, is there going to be coverage for it? How much is that coverage? How's it determined? Am I going to be covered for mold? Because mold can be very, very expensive. Depends on if water damage, for instance, is not addressed right away, or if you were out of town when a pipe broke, You come home, discover your house is full of water and you've got mold growing on everything in the home. So that's where we've also helped people with identifying and separating mold from water and getting things covered under the water policy versus under the mold portion. It was tens of thousands of dollars we were able to help them get recovered by helping them understand what the policy said. So it's very critical, and ask the right questions to your agent. And we're always available to answer any questions. Please don't hesitate to call, and we'd be happy to look at what you got and help you, guide you along the way, and help you make the best educated decision possible in your situation.